제점불도도 유미장 돈을 무는 점불은 잡다 바그로도 zan도 셔마도 돈바도 제잔라 기숑자르 데네점든데라 리용보 갸신긴들 그치요 소도 점든데 다거문 대장 셔바도 자고로 존네 결발레 주지 남장 갸통문보 투장 저트 주지 남장들레 남브름 추라 삼기메 기비 서란직 바랍도 담반더 다가나 문 남영 마투락소 정든데 샘생강도 주지 남정든 점바당 청와당 로바당 상치버게바 대덕 탐지 대tum 맘치반더 다베 주지노도 겨르나 강도 군바 남절라 지습쇼라 남라 무장 친서때 대덕 응아송 탐진나 저도 대덕 대람 탐진나 시 대덕 상제 탐지기 즈 대덕 페지르고라 탐천나 좀 대덕 그 탐천나 신도 판버지 대덕기 상집선회 람 넘버장 대덕 상집령보란노니 대덕 대정서비 쇼여라는 영도 브런직 브런저와 럭소 좀든디 리기브 강덕 주지 남정도 안청아 대덕 라양덕 코라 탐천당 제베 름조당 요교고 중당 중지르 중들 종들당 종당 연구르당 결부부장 강나 주지 남정들랍 쇼바당 청와당 랍도 돈바들 주년 비플라트도 어요당 제dem 최고 리기브 마다바 남나 따브르케바겨 따바남나 주당 담버 중장 개버를 교고 데르게 소라당 정든데 길하이 원보 야샹란더 그치 과자도 럭소 헤이 원보 주지 럭버메 바테 제노서베지스 여롱 리 원보 데바당 마슌바당 따르던 좀 산지 좀든데 남지 장집지 주데 남장도 레단도 리 원보 데베나강 주지 남장던 점바당 타나글로만 저와감 점바당 로바당 창와라시 버리기워 모데덕기는 데바당 마슌바당 따르던 좀 산지 좀든데 남람 줘버런겨로 리 원보 리기워 감마 리기워 포 감마 리기워 모강거 동섬지 동진본지 땡기 감더 대정석배 용서 강완더 따때 회나 वरम शंक छर लम दामी छर लम निगमी छर लम तरजी जंगम सांदंग छर जंद रात का नाम ला करवा गम करवाले लखबर रमरो शेबा लमर शेबा करत तो शेदे देवजंग सकबा दे तगलाम चोबा tamje दं देवी योश tamje जिम चोबा दा देवजंग सकबा दे तो योंसम न्यं लेंदेने जा देवजंग सकबा रे लायम चोबी जरख चिगदम छगबा माजिक बरको दं Churten Jimbote Damjale Shi Bergerna Lang Jimbo Je Jitengi Tsat Tsam Pang de Jiten de Chemba Tsambin Jiten de Chemba De Dang Waden Dang Zhuxiang Zhangbin Zibai Rab de Jiba de Jianxiaba Tam Je Jim Churten Susur Shine Di De La Karwagam Karwali Lhubra Medok Dang Bu Tamje de Dang Gyamzan Tamje Dang Waden Tamje Jim Chobab Shijang Arngagam Sarnyan Nam Dongde Churtin Chodna Lei Wombo Doche Nyamda Sim Rigiva Mote Tabki Jilip Son Manda Kid Tam Sora Chondande Manlangso Devrashaba Manangso Karashia Jartongi Jamsonum Gi Pumbum Tar Shimbermani So Chondande Jika Zara Lei Wombo Kyoda Mubrashago Kyoti Konda Chibrashago Gangar number Tarvasam Jimmy Kiba Tamba Chuji Namjando Zendam Mahlok Gama Shanchibda Shanchibra Shibirigi Po Gama Rigi Mosonu Shendamando Kedo, Tichipshirajena, Fei Wombo, Santip Chondende Namgi, Shanchibna, Chule Shonwa Te, Tena Chopanibi, Zanzanga, Tena Chudi, Tena Chudim Chopra Nikya, Zanzanga, Namayan Bara Shiro, He Wombo, Choti, Namjanda, Jang, the Terrible Jarte. Li Wangbo Hunum Jongwan de Bitina Kara Changme Bi Yang Chi Changme Bana, Gachewa Dang Tsabme Bab Samki Meki Baratara Di Tsena Kara number Jongwan Jitenji Kam Cherab Koba Devra Shabadab Jumba Yang Dobar Zoba Sanji Rukba Dang Jabsar Tamba Devra Shaban Jitenji Berki Vendarwa Kalo Gerwa Vlana Me Balha Damar Namgir Domba Sanji Jomdan De Manji Gerbo Jiv Shavan Jiten de Shonte Devjang Shabadab Jumba Yang Dobar Zoba Sanji Manji Gerwoti Tsi Tsati Varti Karwa Nishi Gerdo Di Nyanto Di Gendon Shia Chokchu Shiva Chaga Chaga Samchir Satik Yodo, Shanjib Sanhua Gendan, Shiva Chaga Samchir So Chigni Yodo, Li Wangbo Di, Tsena Di, Dinan Kurlo, Gerard Gerbojan Shang Dikjibja, Along Jila Wangwa Rumbo Chirnabdan, Damba Jivion, Tela Wakwa, Turput Bat, Yan Chukzik Damba. Parur Jite Raptan Jomba, Tungda Tsangwa Yodo, Gerbo, Renchino Du, Deep, Jondan de Devjan Sobat, Manji, Gerbo, Kordom Cheba, Vartikar, Nivard, Vartikar, Nivard, Young Devi, Yoshitam, Jirum Roche, Leombo, Vartikar, Nabote, Deni. Gerbo Renchino Diver, Tungolander Kirme, so, Chechak, Shiberji, Nedjan Sobam, Chuberji. 다 지지경 대정 서발람 추브르지 시 되네 자로존 대도장 배 저버 진칭 드라 럭수 마메데 년데 대도당 한징 소고네 대정 서발 만지 자로라 까르바 와르마르니 와르드 데비 요시 탐제 지름 로셰소 디나네 Rjarvar dagdig jivshavati jigbi wimber sonen dub nyamda semte choba devi lagba zen chi chabardam hagba cheva yotam nyambadam sanji ji shinji blabji varnangni tele lhati da kandarkichi meso jevatamba chujim chobanam choba tamchi ji nonam choko dirme ba chujim choba de gang lerme ba jevatamba kyut devjang shaba manji jerbu zhongdo songla Chujim choba de gangla ji tishigdam chongden de di chola long ton do. 今天我们讲这个
Today we resume the Vimalakirti Sutra, and now we're on the 13th chapter. We will then study half of this chapter, and then tomorrow we'll study another half, and next week we'll have only one more class left, that is on the chapter of bestowal. And then the week after next week, I think next Monday and Tuesday, we will have a teaching of Suragama Sutra. When I say this, I'm sure you'll be clapping your hands. In fact, Suragama Sutra is very difficult to understand. I think compared to Vimalakirti Sutra, Suragama Sutra is rather much more difficult. But anyhow, since I've already made such aspiration a long time ago, therefore I am going to give such teaching despite the difficulty. I think I'll give the teaching on September 2nd. Monday is September 2nd, isn't it? September 2nd and September the 3rd, we're going to have the classes on Suragama Sutra. In terms of our text, I'm not sure if we will be able to have our texts printed, but at least you'll be able to find some online. So that's the first thing I would like to address. And the second thing is after the chanting of the King of Aspiration, I would like to ask the practitioners over here to stay after the class. I have a few inner some announcement inside the Larangar to make. Now we are on the chapter 13, and that is a Dharma offering. The Chinese edition and the Tibetan edition are mostly the same. There are some differences, but the majority of it is rather very similar. Sometimes when it is difficult to understand in Chinese, I found that it could be easier to understand in Tibetan language and vice versa. Therefore, although I've been really busy, I have lots and lots of things to do, but in each of the classes, for each of the classes, I would then refer cross-reference to different editions. In some places that's rather very difficult, then I would then give you different explanations or give you the alternative connotation in terms of the different commentary. I think majority of you probably feel that This is a very extensive commentary on this sutra because because I would consider myself adequate in both languages, the Chinese and the Tibetan language. Now we're at the very much at the end of this sutra, and I think I've made a clear connotation to different parts of the different aspects of the sutra. Therefore, I really hope that whenever you have such opportunity to give this teaching to other people, then you could provide different explanations thoroughly to other people. Life is impermanence. When it comes to your opportunity to give teachings to other people, I really encourage you to then give extensive teachings to others and try your best to explain as detailed as you can. Also, another thing I would like to note is we have the tutoring class after each class. You can call it mentoring class, discussion group, or sometimes oral presentation, oral exam. You can call that because this could be considered as an exam that you present in front of everyone else, or another way of giving teaching to others or sharing the teaching to others. This is really wonderful. There are people who never ever missed even a single class. Not a class, not a tutoring or mentoring class, discussion group participation. I think in our short time, this is quite admirable. And this is quite a meaningful thing that you've done in this impermanent life. So let's get into the chapter 13, that is the Dharma offering. We have this chapter left, and then another chapter that is a rather very short one, that is the chapter of the bestowal. After Shakyamuni Buddha and Vimalakirti give such Dharma teaching, over here in this chapter it talks about how to make offering to this sutra, and then at that time the protector started. The protector came up, showed up over there, and then the next one is bestowal chapter, where it talks about how people and celestial beings give praises, and it talks about how we can then propagate this teaching in later times. Dharma offering, over here, Dharma means Mahayana teaching, Mahayana Dharma, and offering means offering of studying, contemplation, and practice. And this is the offering, the meaning of offering over here. Whether you uphold it, recite it, teaching it, copy it with writing, or studying it, all of these are considered as offering. As it is said, if our mind could be in accordance with the Noble One, then that is making Dharma offering. If we can do so, if our mind could be in accordance with the Noble Ones, then this is the best offering. So you probably feel really tired and feel really lazy, or you feel quite busy, but despite of all those, you would still go to the discussion group and still would practice and study this text. This kind of offering is so much better and so much more than offering money. Unlike there are people who would make offering of money by opening the bills into the shape of a fan. This is not really the best kind of offering. Rather, the best kind of offering is to study and listen with great sense of with great sense of focus. That's the best way of making Dharma offering. So whenever you rely on a good teacher, the best way to make such offering, to make an offering to a Lama teacher, is to offer the Dharma first, to make a Dharma offering first. That's the most supreme kind of offering. The medium, a mediocre offering is make offering by providing your service, by volunteer and so on. And the least kind of offering, or the most inferior kind of offering, is offering of wealth. But nowadays, it seems that the so-called superior and inferior offerings are then completely reversed. If you can make all of these previous three offerings, that would be great. If you can't, then at least making one kind of offering is really great. If you can make offering of the Dharma offering, that's really wonderful. When I first came to Larungar, I was really, really poor, and I really want to make offering to Phuntsok Rinpoche. But whenever Phuntsok Rinpoche talks about the Dharma offering and the supremacy of Dharma offering, I feel extremely happy. In fact, the best kind of offering is Dharma offering. So that's the kind of offering we should make to the Bodhisattvas. So at that time, the Chakra Divanam Indra, the Indra came over there, and he was in the great congregation at that time. He then said to the Buddha, said that, "World honored one, although I have listened to 100,000 sutras by yourself, taught by yourself, and Manjushri, I had never heard this scripture of definitive true characteristic of the inconceivable, autonomous, numinous penetration." So Indra is a disciple of Shakyamuni Buddha as well as Manjushri. He said that I've listened to so many teachings given by you and Manjushri, but I have never heard such a scripture that directly point out the ultimate truth. We've heard about the autonomous numinous penetration of the Buddha, of Vimalakirti, of Manjushri, and the Bodhisattvas and the Buddha from fragrance accumulation, Pure Land. And then over here it talks about he had never heard about the teaching of the scripture of definitive true characteristic of inconceivable. So over here it talks about the teaching in this text is the most ultimate teaching. The ultimate and relative teaching. Ultimate means the definitive true characteristic or definitively true teaching, and relative means there are skillful means that's applied to the words so that majority of people will be able to accept and understand. According to the Sutra of the Dharma Treasure of Mahayana Bodhisattva taught by the Buddha, it says that contents with euphuistic and elegant words are of provisional meaning. Contents with profundity and unfathomability are the definitive meaning. This is also stated in this sutra, which means the relative mind is not definitive, but the ultimate teaching those are the teaching of definitive true characteristics which are stated. Nowadays, the chicken soup or some of the very soothing words are relative teachings. Those are the teachings that could skillfully lead people to seek to seek spiritual comfort and in some ways to lead you onto the path. So that's relative. But when it gives the teaching of the ultimate teaching that's taught with a definitive meaning, those are the ultimate words, ultimate Dharma teachings. When we talk about how the afflictions, the nature of afflictions are no other than Bodhi, such kind of teaching is the teaching of ultimate truth. Over here it talks about we should then study the true characteristic of the ultimate Dharma. Previously, I think we've quoted that the ultimate truth cannot be fathomed by dualistic thoughts. The dualistic thoughts do not lead you to the ultimate truth that is devoid of any words or descriptions. According to the fundamental wisdom of the middle way, it says that not dependent on another, peaceful and not fabricated by mental fabrication, not thought without distinctions, that is the character of reality, of suchness. There are 5 or 6 characteristics that's stated in this stanza that is of the ultimate truth. So, the ultimate truth that is not heard by the Indra before, the Indra had never heard before. And then Indra continued to say, according to my understanding of the meaning explained by you, if there are sentient beings who hear this sutra, who devoutly understand this sutra, accept and maintain this sutra and read and recite it, they will definitely attain this Dharma, without any doubt about it. In fact, over here, about attain this Dharma, according to the Town Xuanzang's translation as well as the Tibetan translation, it talks about it will definitely be a proper Dharma vessel to receive the Dharma teaching. If you can read, recite, accept, and have devout understanding or devout faith, then you'll be able to receive and attain such Dharma, be able to be the vessel to receive such Dharma, and there is no doubt about it. How much more so? If these people could cultivate according to this explanation, at that time Indra started giving praises to the actual practice that is in accordance with the Buddha's teaching. If a person practices according to the teaching given by the Buddha, then there's definitely going to be much, much more of the merit that comes with it. The previous one, then it talks about the wisdom of listening. That is then hear and devoutly understand. And then the second part, when it talks about accept and maintain, is then the wisdom gained through contemplation. Read and recite, reading and reciting, that belongs to the wisdom or lead to the wisdom of practice. You could. Rather, the wisdom obtained through reading and reciting is the wisdom of contemplation. So how about the wisdom of practice then? It is explained later. It says that such people will immediately close off the hosts of evil destinations and open the gateways of good. The 3 evil destinations, or the 3 lower realms, or the 8 kind of unfavorable conditions, those are the evil destinations that will be completely closed off. So for those of you who often worry about karma, your karma and your life after death, then you don't have to worry too much, because as it is stated over here, you will be immediately close off the host of evil destinations. Also, the gateways of good will be open, such as nirvana, and the human and celestial realm that will be opened up. They will always be protected and remembered by the Buddhas. People may feel that, well, if I study and contemplate and practice the Vimalakirti Sutra, how could the Buddha remember me that often? How could that even be true? In fact, the blessings of the Buddha and Bodhisattvas and the protections coming from the protectors are far more than how you can fathom. When you practice and study and contemplate on a sutra, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas would naturally then rely upon causes and with the dependent origination, the blessings of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will naturally be there to protect you. Well, as you do not understand how you could fall in love with a person on the first sight, you probably won't understand how the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas' blessings could be bestowed to you. And all of these maybe cannot be explained from the superficial, from the very surface of it, the surface of the phenomenon, but there are some very deep-rooted dependent origination behind all such phenomena. If you read and practice and contemplate Vimalakirti Sutra or chant some mantra such as the mantra of Guru Rinpoche, you will receive their blessings. It is through the power of the truth, as well as it is because the truthfulness and undeceiving nature of suchness, as well as dependent origination, you will be able to receive the blessings from Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and protections from protectors and dakinis. Such kind of power will subjugate the heterodox teachings and demolish the vengeful maras. They will also demolish the vengeful maras and harms that comes from them. They will cultivate Bodhi, the 6 paramitas, and 10,000 kinds of actions can be very easily be cultivated, as well as reside peacefully in the place of enlightenment. They will walk in the every footsteps in the Tathagata's path. We will walk in the very footsteps the Tathagata has trod. There are some different translations. What it means is that if we were to practice studying and contemplate this sutra, then the doors to evil destination will be closed, the gates of good will be open. So those are the path of accumulation of merit, and the next one, when it comes to be able to protect and remember the Buddha and subjugate heterodox teachings, demolish vengeful maras, and that is the 1st to 7th bhumi of Bodhisattva. The next sentence is the 8th bhumi. The last sentence describes the 10th bhumi. According to some commentary, it is then divided into these stages. I think we could look at this passage through such a way, or I think we can just take it as it is, and that if we were to practice wholeheartedly, to read and contemplate wholeheartedly, we will be able to then open the doors of the good and close the gates of the evil destinations, be protected and remembered by the Buddhas, and all the heterodox and vengeful Maras will be subjugated in the way of how we witness some people when they practice diligently. It seems that there are people who don't really encounter lots of unfavorable conditions, yet they would meet great teachers and they have lots of favorable conditions, and vice versa. There are people who would then encounter a mixture of favorable and unfavorable conditions, just as two children wrestling with one another. So the favorable and unfavorable conditions would wrestle with each other. Just as when I was young, I used to wrestling with my playmates, yak herders, and we would then wrestle on the top of the mountain, and the ones who lost, then they would continue to sob, and the tears would come out, and they would have a running nose, and they would continue to sniff their nose like that when they're suffering, that is. But when they're happy, when the kids are happy, then they would sing and dance and laugh. That is how children would react during favorable conditions. So people nowadays, if they were in favorable condition and unfavorable conditions, their reactions are very different. And when they're happy, they almost want to fly just like Milarepa and fly into the blue sky and white clouds, as well as the mountains that penetrates into the white clouds. And when they feel unhappy and in unfavorable conditions, they just want to then run away from this group. They just want to commit suicide. So lots of such kind of extreme emotions. The favorable and unfavorable conditions to mundane beings are very different. And are very and it makes great impacts on people as well. But so you could explain it simply just by looking at all of this merit that could be gained through studying, contemplation, and practice of this sutra, or you could view it as a way how it is in accordance of the path and bhumis. The previous one talks about the merits, and then the next part, then Indra continuously to say that world-honored one, if there are those who accept and maintain, read and recite, and cultivate this sutra as it has explained, I and my subordinates, I and my group, I and my community will then make offering and serve them. So for people who read and who teach and who would propagate such teaching, then such a person would then gain great protection from the celestial beings such as Indra and his subordinates, because that's what Indra promised. Whomsoever make offering or whomsoever recite and cultivate or to propagate this sutra, then the Indra, the celestial beings, will try their best to protect them. That's the first promise from the Indra. There's so many people online and over here listening to this teaching. There are people who said that please give me blessings so that I will be able to finish listening this teaching. Otherwise, I won't be able to continue to listen to this anymore. I have so much problems going on with my health, with my family, with my career. So to this group of people, I supplicate to the Indra to remember his promise. When I make jokes, I saw that there are people who never laughed. Is it because you suffer a lot? Even when 99% people laugh at my jokes, they would keep their face like so, and they hold still such kind of attitude. So the first one is blessings, is protection. And then the second one is that to village, towns, mountain forests, and a wilderness. In Tibetan version, in fact, it includes the big city, small city, rural area, towns, and small tribes and small villages. Lots of large and small cities, rather, and villages and towns, and then mountain forest, and then wilderness, where this sutra is found. And then Indra said, I and my subordinates, I and my group will definitely go to these locations in order to listen to the Dharma. I will cause those who do not yet believe to believe, and those who already believe will be protected. According to the Tibetan version as well as Tang Xuanzang's translation and Sanskrit version, it has one more passage inside. It says that in all these places, if a person is upholding, practicing, or giving teaching on this sutra, doesn't matter where you are, in the city, in the town, in the wilderness, if you have this sutra, if you practice it, if you give teaching on it to propagate this Dharma, then Indra promised, I and my subordinates will go there and listen to the Dharma that they teach. And Indra will cause those who do not yet believe to believe, and those who already believe will be protected. If this passage is added, I think from the previous content and the later content inside this, then it is easier to explain because it acts that part acts as a connector. Because over here, to this translation, it says that if this sutra is found, but by simply found, it doesn't really connect to the later part about listening to the Dharma. So it probably makes more sense if it is that if one person, if anyone gives teaching of this sutra in any of those places, Indra and the subordinates will be there to protect that person. We really like to be protected by protectors, and then we would chant it. Some people would chant and dance. According to the mundane code of mundane and transmundane actions by Mipa Rinpoche, it says that if you were to practice good, then all the protectors will be there naturally without having to supplicate them. If you were without the protections of a protector, then despite the willingness of becoming a good practitioner, it's very difficult. But if you were, sometimes maybe there are difficulties, but even if you encounter difficulties, you will naturally be protected by the protectors. So sometimes I contemplate to myself the kind of practice that we do every day, the protectors practice that we chant every day. It's very good. And there are people, and even if you don't have time to chant it every day, do not get overstressed, because I know that there are people who kept on saying that you have to do it every day, otherwise you will not be protected by the protectors. In fact, the protectors are not that narrow-minded. They would protect you if you were practicing the Dharma. So even if you really don't have such time to practice the protector chanting, then I myself would ask for the protector to forgive us for such inconsistency. And I don't think they will be so narrow-minded. Once I went to see a friend, and he said that it seems that this year in Larungar, the obstacles are much less than it used to be. And then I thought that's very true, because in our classes, we chant the protectors chanting every day. And I feel that the protector is really protecting us. And I really think the protector is quite understanding in a way that sometimes, even if we forget or even if we don't do it every day, the protector is still quite helpful when it's necessary. In our mundane world, the protectors are in fact quite keen on what is good and what is bad, and therefore the protectors would definitely protect you if you were practicing the good. On one hand, I really like chanting protector chanting. On the other, when I do not have enough time to chant at home, at least I would chant in class. And in such a way, I think this is really wonderful. It really pushes me to chant it every day. So in your practice, in your Dharma propagation, you should then supplicate to the protector diligently. Even when Ponsongo Rinpoche traveled around, he kept on. He brought his Dharma protector offering cup everywhere. I think the most special thing that we received when we were in Bhutan was, in fact, the insights and blessings from protector. I myself, I cannot talk too much about it, but sometimes I would consider all of such kind of blessings comes from the lineage masters. But I think through chanting the protector chants, I believe that we will all receive a little bits and pieces, at least, from the protectors. Over here it talks about then the previous one. Previously, we've already talked about the merits. It talks about the offering and protection to the practitioners who then study and read and practice Vimalakirti Sutra. I think the kind of offering is really offering the auspiciousness or a sense of protect the auspiciousness to continue. And then the Buddha said, "Excellent, excellent, heavenly emperor, it is as you have spoken. I am very happy for you. I rejoice." According to Tibetan, it says rejoice as well. But according to Master Kuiji, he had a bit different of explanation. But I think rejoice to the Buddha is in fact quite reasonable as well. Just as when during the meetings, when supervisor agrees to the main manager would say that I second his opinion. Anyhow, such kind of recognition of the speech, it shows a sense of authority, I guess. And then the next one, it talks. So over here it says that the Buddha then agrees with Indra's opinion. Offering, merit, and protection, those are the actions that should be done by Indra and his subordinates. It is very reasonable and very suitable. That's what it means by the Buddha's speech, by I'm happy for you. And then he continued to say that this sutra extensively explains the inconceivable Anattara Samyak Sambodhi of the Buddha of the past, present, and future. So the Buddhas of the three times, the inconceivable Anattara Samyak Sambodhi, are taught in this sutra. That is of the Buddha of the three times. In the translation commentary of Vimalakirti Sutra, it says that over here it talks about the Buddha, and the Buddha is rather the manifestation, and the Akshobhya is Dharmakaya. So it talks about the three kayas as well as the different insights and different levels of realization of the three kayas, as well as the merits of the three kayas. So continue. It says, therefore, heavenly emperor, if a good man and woman accept and maintain, read and recite, and make offering to this sutra, that is tantamount to making offering to the Buddha of the past, the present, and future. So we're doing exactly the same. We're then making offering, we're chanting, we're reading, we're practicing, we're contemplating, and this is no other than making offering to the Buddhas of the three times. Heavenly Emperor Indra, even if the entire Trimegachilya cosm were filled with Tathagata, as numerous as the sugar cane and bamboo, reeds, rice, hemp, and forest. Some of the translation, it talks about 4, some says 5, some has 6. Some has reeds. So sugarcane, bamboo, reeds, and rice, and sesame, and forests are really condensed. All of the vegetations are quite condensed. So you can visualize such condensity. And if a good man and a woman were to then make an offering and so on, usually in a world there's only one Tathagata or one Tathagata, but if the entire Trimegachilya cosm were filled with the Tathagatas as numinous as such condensed vegetations, if a good man or a woman were to revere, honor, praise, and make offering and provide their needs for kalpas or even more kalpas. Over here, it's not less than a kalpa, it's rather more kalpas. That's according to Channel Emperor's Tripitaka. So what it means is more kalpas. So for a kalpa or even more kalpas until after the nirvana of those Tathagatas. And made all, provide for all of their needs, such as needs of any kind of materials that they need. Then in one kalpa or more kalpas, if they can continuously to make such offerings, and even after the nirvana of those Tathagatas, if he or she erect a stupa of the 7 treasures above the whole relics of every one of those Tathagatas' bodies, or the relics of the entire body of the Tathagata. Sometimes there are the Tathagata of the relics of whole body or relics of separated relics of the body. There are the separate relics of Ananda, where he separated his relics into 4, or where the relics of the relics were then separated into 4. Sometimes my pronunciation is a little different than your pronunciation. What I meant was that when the relics were then separated or broken into pieces, there are the relics that is broken into different pieces and then put into different stupas. For example, there was the relic. There was one piece of relic sent to Lumbini and was protected by a Naga king over there, and there were 7 other relics which were protected by 8 other kings at that time, and that was by Ashoka back in history. Lumbini was in fact not. Lumbini is in fact not so far away, and it is protected and not really destroyed by any other of the external forces. So the relics were separated into 8 countries and protected by 8 kings, and that kind of relics are called the relics, the separated relics, and there are also the whole relics, the relics of the relics that is not broken off from the whole relic of the body of the Tathagata. And when such stupa is as long and wide as a single 4-fold world and as tall as a Brahma's heaven, with each stupa constituting a field ornamented with all manner of flowers, incense, garlands, banners, and musicians paramount in most subtle wonder. And if the good man or woman made offering to these stupas for a kalpa or more than kalpas, what do you think, Indra? Would the blessing planted by that person be great or not? So at that time, Indra of course said, "Oh, that would be great. World honored one. One could not fully explain their merit even in 100,000 kotis of kalpas." As it is said that even if you make offering to one Tathagata, the merit generated from such is in fact already immeasurable. when we see the body of the Tathagata, when you make offering, when we supplicate to the Tathagata, such merit that gained from such kind of actions are immeasurable.
还有这里面是这样讲的，然后有一
And
个
then
叫做是那个大乘辈分脱离济南，
there's
大
a
乘辈分脱离济南
sutra.
就没有照到就是那个它的这个谁翻译的，
I
但是
can't find the
确实在
translator, however, it is included in the Chinese version of Tripitaka. The sutra's title is Mahayana Compassionate White Lotus Sutra. It says that after I, the Buddha, enter Nirvana, in front of my relics, of being pay homage with all kinds of treasures, or chant just once a homage to the Buddha, or make just one bow to them, or circumambulate them just once, or hold palms together just once, or offer just one flower, such merit will ensure them to follow any of the three vehicles without retreat, according to their capacities.
就是那天这个不尽犹未不
The other day we talked about do not exhaust the conditioned and do not abide in the unconditioned, where in that chapter we learned that you should not stop making offering, you should not stop circumambulate stupas, because there are people when they first get in touch with the teaching of emptiness, they would very easily then get into the extreme of emptiness and stopped practicing accumulation of merit. In fact, when it comes to accumulation of merit, simple actions such as circumambulation of the stupa, making prostrations, and offering incense or flowers, and so on, those are easy. But the merit that accumulated from such actions is quite great and difficult to count. And nowadays, before, when we were in the old shrine hall, I would still make offering of 7 cups of clean water. Although I did not fetch such water for myself, but I'm not sure. And I'm not sure if I'll be able to accumulate merit through that. But now, once we moved to this shrine hall, I stopped doing so. I was asked by someone that what's the practice manual for practicing or chanting sadhana of using the prayer wheel. And I thought to myself, what's the sadhana to practice upon through using the prayer wheel? You just need to use it from left to right, and that's how you practice with prayer wheels. And you can practice by circumambulation, and you can practice by folding your palms, or just use one hand, not even folding your palms, just using one hand. Or use one incense, or use one flower, something that's very insignificant, which could cause significant merit. And in this sutra, it says that you will not retrogress from the three vehicles, off the three vehicles. But nowadays, people's mind are very much unsteady, and they would retrogress very easily from the path. Maybe that's because of the lack of merit, and without the firm foundation of merit, it's very easy to push the wall over. Just like that, as Buddhists, we need to have a very firm foundation of, just like a wall, the practitioners should have a very firm foundation of merit in order to practice and not to retrogress from the path. And then the Buddha told Heavenly Emperor the Indra, saying that you should understand the good man or woman who hears the scripture of inconceivable emancipation and who devoutly understands, accepts, recites, and practices it will have blessings even greater than the former person. Well, for those of you who do believe in such kind of merit that is taught through the Buddha, then this sentence is extremely important. It says that for those people who makes a Dharma offering of understand, accept, recite, practice, then the merit that is accumulated is far greater than the person who make material offerings that is stated previously. Why? Enlightenment of all the Buddhas is born from this. Born from the Dharma. The characteristic of Bodhi is immeasurable, is without characteristic, and unfathomable. And based on these blessings the blessings are also immeasurable and unfathomable. It is because the object is unfathomable, therefore the merit is unfathomable. According to the Tibetan and other editions, it says that the reason of unfathomability is the Buddhas are born from the Dharma offering, not from the material offering. According to Master Kuei-ji, he said that the material of wealth belongs to the worldly realm, and the Dharma offering is super mundane offering, therefore it is the most superior. So from the Dharma offering, the Buddhas are born. Therefore, by making the Dharma offering, the merit comes from it, generated from it, is immeasurable. The Dharma generates the greatest benefit to self and others. According to Acts of the Buddha, it says that the many sutras of great meaning, the words of a holy teacher, to propagate these classics of the Buddha is the most beneficial to the world. So the classics, the sutras, and the shastras, those are of the most beneficial to the world, to the sentient beings. So the sutras and shastras, in fact, brings great benefit to everyone. You cannot then ask the Buddha or a Lama to stay at a place to help you. They can give you blessings like this by then patting on your head with the sutra textbook. But such kind of blessings cannot abide in your mind for a long period of time. But the teaching, the education, in fact, could stay in this world as well as in your mind for a long period of time and engrave in your heart. The power that comes from the Sutra and Shastras could definitely help you at all times, and the power of such, the strength of such is immeasurable. Therefore, it is said that the Buddha Therefore, it is said that in the Sutra of Buddha practice and filial piety with expedience, it says that Buddha rely on the Dharma as their teacher. Buddhas are born from the Dharma. The Dharma is the mother of all Buddhas. And then the Buddha told Indra, saying that at a time immeasurable asamkheyas of kalpas in the past, there was a Buddha named Medicine King. He's a Tathagata, great arhat, a fully enlightened one endowed with wisdom and conduct, well-gone one, knower of the world, supreme master of the discipline, teacher of gods and humans, Buddha, the world-honored one. So those are the 10 titles of the Medicine King Buddha. His world was called Great Ornamentation, and his kalpas was called ornamentation. That Buddha's lifespan was 20 small kalpas. He has a Shravaka Sangha of 36 kotis, nayutas of members, and a Bodhisattva Sangha of 12 kotis, which is about 1.2 billion in current number. That's a description. Heavenly Emperor Indra, at the time there was a wheel-turning sage king named Jewel Canopy. He was endowed with 7 treasures of the Chakravartin and ruled the fourfold world. The king had 1,000 sons who were handsome, courageous, and able to subjugate their enemies. At that time, Jewel Canopy, this Chakravartin or universal monarch, and his subordinates made offering to the medicine king Tathagata, providing all that he needs for a full 5 kalpas. The Tibetan version, it says that a full 5 kalpas, and after 5 kalpas, he told his 1,000 sons, he said that you should also make offering to the Buddha with a profound mind like me. Then the 1,000 sons, accepting their father's order, maybe at that time the Jewel Canopy universal monarch was already getting old, so he was giving this teaching to the son, and he said that then the 1,000 sons accepting their father's order. Well, unlike nowadays, the children do not listen to their parents. Some children would follow a different religion. Some children would do exactly the different from what the parents told them, and would sometimes even slander the Buddha when knowing their parents are Buddhists. Anyhow, at that time, then accepting their father's order, the sons made offering to the medicine king Tathagata. And they provided his needs for another 5 full kalpas. Sometimes when we think about 1,000 sons, maybe you feel that is very difficult to imagine. How could you have 1,000 sons? But in fact, Zhou Emperor had 100 sons. And last year when I went to Eswatini, Swaziland, and the previous king to this king, he had about 100 sons and over. In fact, this current king of Eswatini, he has 16 wives and 30-something children, and his father has about 90 to 100 children, and he had about 100 wives. In the introduction of the current king says that this current king was the 67th son of the previous king. And the king has about over 1,000 sons and grandsons. Eswatini, in fact, is quite an interesting country. Every year they have a reed dance festival where the king would pick his wife, his new wife or concubine, and on that day the young girls would then carry reeds to join this dance, and all the most beautiful girls would gather together, and the king would pick another wife for the year from such a festival. So you can look at the photos. Some people, they do not really like the king's behavior of picking picking more wives and then burdening his people with more texts to build new palaces for his new concubines. I think on one hand, it is. I think the country was really beautiful, though. I went to Eswatini as well as Malawi. I really feel that they are quite different. They have a quite a different system of knowledge in Africa. On the land of Africa, from our perspective, we feel that this is unimaginable. But from their culture and from their costume, then they feel this is quite normal. This is normal than normal. And throughout the river of history, there are different kinds of phenomena that cannot be understood by our limited conceptual mind, just like this universal monarch who lives for kalpas, that is already unimaginable for our limited understanding of time. So we can understand that he could have rather very different lifestyle than how we do. Therefore, do not use your own mind to thinking pattern to judge others. Do not then require others to have to be in accordance with your opinion, with your thoughts. Therefore, I think we all need to have different spaces and different kind of understanding and opinions. But I feel nowadays people are quite narrow-minded, that if you like sweets, other people has to like sweets as well, otherwise it's wrong. You have to give other people space to have their likings and their ways of living. Our understanding of this world, our understanding of different groups of people. In fact, because people are so different, we feel that we live our life like this, we've lived our life like this, and we are the only correct ones, and the other ones are all wrong. You cannot point your fingers like that. Because in our relative world, it is already not real. Do not create more unnecessary conflicts. We need to be more broad-minded. So out of all of these sons of this universal monarch, one of these sons is named Moon Canopy. And he sat alone, thinking that might there be some offering that would exceed even this. Upon contemplating this, through the Buddha's numinous power, through the blessings of the Buddha, there's a voice coming from the sky, and a celestial being's voice came through and was resonating in the space. And the voice stated, "Good man, the offering of the Dharma surpasses all other offerings." According to the Mahaprajnaparamita Sutra, it says that those aspiring to make offering to the Buddha are supposed to train in 3 practices. First, to generate bodhicitta. Second, to try your best to uphold the Dharma. And third, to practice according to the Dharma. Therefore, Indra, or Heavenly King, you should know that anyone trained in these 3 practices is truly making offering to the Buddha. So these are the 3 practices. And then at that time, the god said, "You should go and ask Medicine King Tathagata. He will give you an extensive explanation of the offering of the Dharma." And tomorrow we'll study the rest.